All right, I want to call this meeting to order. If we could please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda for the special meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for this special meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So passes. So we are here to discuss the recommendation regarding the purchase of 8 Oakwood Avenue. I'm going to turn it over to Carol.
Okay, yeah, Mayor and Council. So as you know, we've completed negotiations with the property owner regarding the purchase of the property located at 8 Oakwood. The property also, as you know, sits directly across the street from the John West Park here at 32 West and is adjacent the town's existing parking lot on Oakwood. In the past, the town of Ocean View has purchased property in and around this town park with the intent to preserve, for the benefit of the community, suitable property that may allow for additional amenities to be developed. An appraisal of the property took place, and then the appraisal came in at $375,000. Negotiation took place with the seller, and the price determined that they would be willing to sell for is $405,000. We do have funds identified for the purchase from unrestricted fund balance, which at the close of our FY23 budget year, which would be the end of April this year, it totaled $2,128,000. As well as we've confirmed the ability to use 23 bond bill funds totaling $89,950. Okay, so in addition, just for total awareness, I have made application to the Outdoor Recreation Park Trust Grant Program to assign $89,950 in funds that were previously applied for another property that has since gone under contract. We will not know that until November, but I did talk to the person who runs the program and provided all the information they needed. You do have a resolution in association with that on this agenda as well that we can look at.
Excuse me a second. Somebody's phone is ringing. Can you put your phones on mute?
Mine's in my car.
It sounds like it's coming up
From the screen.
Oh,
It's coming from the
okay, sorry.
from the office. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. So anyway, today when you vote, you should vote with just the use of some of the monies from the unrestricted fund balance and some of the monies from the total from the bond bill funds that we have already been approved to use. And then if, in fact, in November, we're able to retroactively put the grant money towards this, we would do so, and that would mean less money would be coming from our unrestricted funds. So with all of that said, unrestricted fund balance usage would be $315,050, and bond bill funds $89,950 for the purchase of the property at the 405. We do have a signed agreement in place at this time, so therefore recommended that council authorized me to move forward with the purchase of 8 Oakwood Avenue for the total price of $405, using the above funding sources, and with the town solicitor handling all aspects of the closing of sale.
And Mayor and Council, if I can just add one thing, when Carol and I were discussing the contract that is executed with the potential seller is conditioned and contingent upon approval of the vote of the council. Okay, so the contract is not operative until the council approves it.
Veronica, right now we have a deposit paid.
I don't know, we do
No,
not have the deposit
we're
paid.
prepared to give that to Veronica today if the vote is positive.
The town would, if we don't execute or vote in a positive manner, there would be no harm to the seller, right?
Well, the seller simply, with the contract would be null and, you know, there would be no contract because the
Okay.
contingency was not met.
Very good. No harm to the, okay, very good.
Question, the 89.9, does that put any encumbrances on the property as you can't do anything to it?
No, it was,
Special use,
no, it was originally for open space.
right?
And I had to reach out to Senator Hocker because of the property that it was originally granted for, being under contract with someone else. So, after a couple of back and forth, he confirmed that it would be.
So there's nothing, it could be, okay.
Nothing, the gist of it is that if we purchase this property, it is aligned with the park here, John West Park.
But only-
Whatever we do with it would be some form of an amenity for this facility. Since we don't have a decision about what we're gonna do.
Right.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, a few minutes here, I have some questions. And I guess the first ones I want to direct towards Dawn. Thank you for being here. And excuse me for... So the funding source of using unrestricted funds, how are those funds accumulated over the period of years?
Every year during the audit process, we take what's restricted and put it into, you know, it's kind of committed, restricted, it's buckets. So that would be all the trust funds that we have, street repair replacement, the capital reserve, ESIF, the emergency service fund, the ERTF, the emergency restricted trust fund is all put into its buckets, along with any carry forwards from purchase orders, from encumbrances that weren't completed by April 30th, to any payables that were prior year payables, but we didn't get the invoices in time to pay by April 30th. All of that is taken out of all the funds that we have, and then anything left over is put to unrestricted. Now this year, our overall fund balance came down. That's because we've been doing projects. Our restricted funds were reduced, but our unrestricted was increased, and it was increased by, I think, $380,000. So last year we had unrestricted of 1.7. This year we have unrestricted of 2.1. So we're not actually using any of our fund balance that we had at the end of FY22. We're just using the increase to the unrestricted fund balance that accumulated in FY23.
All right, thank you. In your past experience, and this goes to you, Carol, using unrestricted fund, is this an appropriate use to purchase a property for those unrestricted funds?
Yes.
By using the dollars from this unrestricted fund, as you stated before, which is very important, all of our other encumbered funds and trust funds are fully met, and not only fully met, there's probably some excess in there. If we go back to the last meeting, we got about 6 months of emergency reserve as opposed to 3. So it's important to note that all of our trust funds and all of our encumbered funds are met and have been met, if not exceeded.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's the case. We have about 6 months of reserve in unrestricted for emergency, and that's what the organizations, the accounting, you know, GASB and GFOA, all set to have 3 months.
Yeah.
we have at least 6 months. So we have enough in our unrestricted to pay our bills for at least 6 months without,
Using the
prior
truck.
to using this extra additional 300,000 that we put in there this
Yeah,
year.
it's almost, when you look at the financials, it's almost, we could run a year by using unrestricted and, or, the trust, the emergency trust fund.
Yes.
Without a penny coming into the town.
Yes.
As far as revenue. The use of these funds would not necessarily affect, or would not affect next year's budget.
Should not, no. At this point,
At
it
this-
should,
at this-
at this point, should not.
And then, the use of these funds in doing next year's budget would have little to no effect, and I'm saying probably none, but I defer to you, you're the expert, in any decisions that we, the council, would have to make in reference to next year's budget, whether we do a tax increase or not a tax increase. The use of these funds would not factor in any of that.
Historically, council has not used unrestricted fund balance in determining whether there was gonna be a tax increase or decrease.
And do you agree with that? I mean, okay, very good. That's the first section. I have a couple others. You want me to continue, sir?
Sure.
Very good. The current property is zoned residential, and Carol, you had mentioned other uses that we could use. If the town did not buy this property, nothing else could be built on that piece of property. It would have to stay existing, a current home, because of the zone, and that's what it is.
Unless a zoning application came forward for something else.
Correct, and that would go P and Z, and ultimately the council would have the final vote on that as well. All right. And in your application for the OPRT, is there a timeline that we must follow in making a decision on what we're gonna do with that property? Or are there restrictions on what we can do with that property?
The ORPT grant, which we made it through the first stage, albeit for a different property, which is now under contract, had to have its full application submitted last Friday, the 15th. In that application, I made it extremely clear that we did not know what we were doing, that there is a possibility it could be a parking lot, because that was some of the original conversation. So if we are approved, it would be approved under that basis, that it would be, that we don't know what it is, but it would be associated with this park, which they have already funded purchase of land for.
Right, but it still has to go through their approval process in November. And
Yes.
there's a possibility they could say no to that.
Yes, but the 8995, and I'm sorry that they're the same, but I use them as the
Yeah.
match, from the bond bill is what we're making a recommendation on now. And I'm just letting you know there's a possibility another 89950
Right.
could come available in November.
Can I add? We've already received the 8995 from
Bond
last
bill.
year.
Bond bill.
Yes. Just so that you're aware that we've received the cash already. It is sitting in our accounts.
Did I answer your question?
Well, so to get this OPRT, there are a few restrictions that's laid out correctly. I'm sure the mayor will address this in a bit. But we're not, to some degree, we're limited on what we could do, to
Yeah.
some degree.
Yes.
Nothing on this application that you made says what we're actually going to do.
No, and there's several sections when I put it in that I couched that we don't know yet.
Okay, so if we go to page 3 of that application, there's some dates that are specific: demo of home, determination of use, design, and construction. So are you saying that we don't have to follow this, or this is just an idea or an example given to, the application of these funds?
Yeah, we have to provide something, and since we do not know at this point in time, I had to put some kind of dates and things in.
Okay, but that can be changed.
Well, anything could be changed, because if they come back with an answer and we have made some decisions, which we don't have right now, I would advise them of that. And if the restrictions were such that we didn't agree with it, then we wouldn't take the money.
Okay, but this timeline is our suggestions.
What
That's
page
not
are you on?
theirs. Page
No,
3.
it's not theirs, no. We just have to provide them something,
Okay.
yeah.
Carol, so, this is an example, an idea of a timeline yet to be decided on by the council if we were to get those funds.
Yes, and it
Yeah.
says it right there, example provided,
Yeah, I see that.
yeah.
So, again, back to the same question. So, this is an example. Are they going to use this and say, hey, we're gonna give you this, we want you to follow this timeline?
They could,
Okay?
Or if you have a suggestion, I could send that to them tomorrow. They're not meeting until October.
Okay.
If you want me to move it out past 2024, it seems pretty, it's May 2024. I would hope we would have a determination of use by then.
Do you have any more questions?
One more.
Okay.
Well, two more actually, real quick. The cost of demolition of the property, if we so decide to do something in it, we really don't know what it is.
No, just a
that-
high estimate,
Yeah.
a conservative estimate that Ken was able to provide.
And what was that?
I think it's been provided in other things, but I should have it right here. I think it was 24, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I want to say you said 24, 25.
Or it might be in here.
For the demo?
She's looking, but that's what I have in my head for
What
the
did you
demo.
say? What did you say?
I think it's been provided previously, let me say. I have an email with it all outlined. Should be in here. Maybe it's in Oakwood. Yeah, demo 25K.
25K.
We had demo 25K, engineer and design 25K. These are conservative estimates. Construction 135K, construction engineering, and that was based on our conversation, which was earlier for parking lot. They were the earlier conversations with council.
Go over them one more time. So you have 25 for demo,
25 for demo.
right?
The rest of it is neither here nor there until you know what you're doing with it.
Correct.
25 for engineering.
And then about 100 for if it went to parking, right?
This is only based on the early conversations about
Yes.
extending the parking lot.
Yes. And then one last question, Mr. Mayor. Carol, we still have this Burzin project, and you make mention of that, and that project is, this would, using any of these funds would not slow down or prohibit the development of the Burzin property.
No, we're in the process of, preparing to send our match for those grants. We got two, one ORPT, Outdoor Rec Trails Parks, and, a TAP grant. So, we're in the process of sending that for the design
Good.
portion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And that, as discussed before, just for clarity, is from, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds. And the total is,
109,275,
so that's gonna go out next week likely.
Tuesday.
Did you have any questions?
I do. In talking about the lot across the street being used as a parking lot, and you've mentioned the parking lot possibility, I would like to know about the grass parking lot. It's been very important to me in over 30 years watching this park grow, especially recently, and wonderful things have happened in our park. The grass parking lot is so versatile, and it is parking where people do not need to cross the street. It's within the park, and I wondered, is there anything we could, I mean, I would not want to lose that as a grass parking lot with all the options. And one thing my husband had mentioned was Boy Scouts could pitch tents there. I mean, there are so many possibilities of using that lot. I feel it's very important to keep it as a parking lot with an open space. Can we improve the grass lot?
Yes, one of the thoughts we had was, and I'm not sure that the term for it is to repurpose some of it closer to, say, the bocce ball courts so you can get your eyes on that. And make that grassed, fully grassed, because we know we need it for certain events, especially Cops and Goblins, the bigger events, because we actually take the ropes down. And then the other thought was that we could do, it's kind of a concrete lattice that goes in, that has grass coming up between it, and also to stop leaving it open all the time, so that it doesn't have the problems that we have now. It's like concrete. It floods, it's unsightly. That is all up to council, what you end up wanting to do with it. I will always make recommendations based on what I think is the best, based on my experience and my observation of our usage. I will always, retain that right, but you guys always get to decide. So if you and the rest of council decide that that's what we want to do, that's totally fine.
Okay.
At some point in time, bringing that interior section of the park into something more useful as a park amenity might be something that the town council and the community might want to consider. But it's not something you're considering today.
Right. So, my opinion, I think because of the proximity to the park and the cost, in comparison with cost around Ocean View, it's well worth it. But I don't want to be locked into something until we decide down the road what we're going to use it for later. So I don't want anything.
You're talking about 8
Yes,
now?
yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, so wording wise, that's my only concern, that we're locked in with usage of that lot.
You're not.
Okay.
You're not locked in.
Sorry, I jumped around.
No, that's
Kept
okay.
popping back and forth.
It's a good discussion, but we're not locked in with what we have identified as the funding sources.
Right.
Did you have something?
I just want to make sure that council is aware that the funding sources, the unrestricted, and we have the 89,950 that we've received from last year's application.
Bond bill.
Bond bill. Carol got approved to use it for this lot, the 8 Apewood, instead of using for that other property that's now under contract. The 89,955 that she's asked for, that hasn't been approved yet, once you decide what you want to use that lot for, if it's not what they say we can use it for, we can give it back. We're not, same with the 8995 that we had. She got approval for it to go to there because it's associated with the park. But the additional grant that you're gonna be discussing the submission of is,
Well, it's already been submitted,
yes,
and let's just be clear. I could have just said, hey, we gotta give you the 8995 back, Senator Hocker, because that property's under contract. But I made the effort to see if we could put it towards here. They said yes. I could have said, ORPT, sorry, not putting in my full application because that property's under contract. I didn't choose to do that. I tried to see if I could let the funds that I think could come our way could live to see another day. So I can still withdraw that if that's what you want me to do. I don't think it makes sense. We might as well try for it. They gave me a good feeling that it would be approved. We have a good track record with getting things done. They have a vested interest in this park. They've already funded things for this park. So, you know, we're recommending the two sources right now, and I'm basically just letting you know there might be some other funds that could retain more of the money in our unrestricted.
Well, I think it's prudent that you did reach out and sort of earmark funds that we could use when we decide what we want to do with that property. I think my concern from the last meeting was that there was a lot of hesitancy about whether or not we want to turn it into a parking lot because of the cost per parking space.
That was executive session.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyways, I'm thinking that you know, there are other uses that could be made of that space. You know, I think we probably need to have a committee of not just the town council, but any other citizen that would be interested in serving on that committee to come up with some ideas about what we can do with that space. I think it's worthwhile buying the property, since it's so close to the park, to be associated with the park. In my long ride back from West Virginia yesterday, I was thinking, well, why couldn't we just reconfigure that building into and just call it the community center that could be used for the same things that we're using now with the two organizations that are part here, but also open it up to the public where they can have events. I remember growing up as a young teenager, we had a community center in which we had lots of events for children and young adults in the town, in that community center. And what would we do with the space here? I think we could, you know, one of your ideas was that eventually we may have to hire someone to take care of parks and recreation. It would make sense that that person have an office in this building next to the park.
And you're still talking 8.
Yes. So that building at number 8 would be a community center. This building would be offices to be used by town employees, as well as this one here as it's currently being used. But that's just one idea. I think the concern here is that we don't want to be locked into saying now that it's a parking lot, and we understand that we're not. But I do think that we probably need to establish a committee to look into what kinds of ideas should we be looking at for that space.
We can do that, absolutely. Again, it's not, you're not locked into it. I need to make that crystal clear. However you want to come to a communication and whoever you want to handle that, you just let me know. If in fact we do purchase it.
Any other questions?
Carol, you made a comment about the bond bill, that 89,500, that we have given permission to switch from potentially another property, which is under contract, to 8 Oakwood. In fact, we already have the funds. Using that money from that bond bill, there's no restrictions on it based on what we would potentially do with 8 Oakwood, correct?
I can't say 100%. I got an email from Senator Hocker's aide saying that approved the town using the allocated funds for the new parcel.
So, for instance, picking up on that, if we decided we wanted to turn that into a community center,
If it's
that would be approved?
I would think so. I guess what I'm gonna recommend you do is if you want to purchase this property, purchase it, give us authorization strictly from unrestricted funds. And then I will share with them this new information about retaining and keeping it as a community center. In my experience, community centers, I mean, we don't know yet. So I think you're gonna have to purchase this if you so desire with fully unrestricted funds, because somebody may come up with something totally different. You've said community center, parking's been discussed. Nobody has said anything else to my knowledge. I can't say for sure. If it's something associated with a park, this park, community center, typically I would expect that would be something that would be okay. And even, let's say, even if it isn't, they can still make a change. They can still make a change for whatever it is if they want to support it, if they think it's beneficial. You know, I'm going to have a conversation with Senator Hocker, and I can't give you that answer right now today. So I think don't plan on using it if you're going to vote today on the purchase of this property.
So why is this any different than the other 89.9 in which you applied for? And if we don't use it, we just tell them we don't want it. Why couldn't we just give it back?
Well, we
the
can.
first
We would
89.9.
have to give it back. We already have
Right.
that one. It's not even a question of being awarded or not. It was awarded, and then because of the changes, I had to reach out. And I got something that I thought was sufficient. But now with the new information that I'm being presented today at the meeting, I haven't had that opportunity to have further conversations. Had I had any inkling about any other ideas, I would have worded my question differently. From day one, my conversations with council has always been that would be something that would supplement this park. And it was certainly, and if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I am mistaken, the original thought of expanding our parking lot was supported. That was what I took from it. It's only just in recent weeks which is fine, but I'm gonna change my recommendation. I'm gonna recommend that if you are so inclined to make this purchase, that you do so with the funding being only unrestricted until such time that we actually know what this community council want to do with it.
Okay.
because it's changed too much now.
So Carol, can I
Yeah.
ask a question that might help the council? If they elect to to follow that recommendation, with respect to the bond bill money, how long do they have to make, to,
I have no idea.
okay, yeah. So you don't know how long it would take to get it, to,
How
Get
long
an
you
answer.
have, how long you have to spend it, is that your question?
yeah, that's my, how long
I
they
don't
to-
have that, I don't
Okay.
have that answer.
Well, I think, using unrestricted funds to purchase it, is fine. You know, if you were to, ask Senator Harker whether or not, other uses besides, the original use that you told him we were gonna use it for could be used, and if he says fine, then we can just apply it, into the budget that,
Absolutely, it would go
Yeah.
back into unrestricted funds
Right.
if we get the okay. And I can tell you, I will do everything in my power to get it approved for that.
mhm.
Just like I will do everything that I can to get us the ORPT funds. But, I can't answer, with now the opportunity for usage for that property, expanding in ways that, have never been discussed. I'm not prepared to tell you that.
Right. Well, my personal view is I think that property, being as close as it is to the park, is worthwhile for the town to purchase for a use to be determined later. You know, we always talk about the land that we never bought, that we had opportunities to buy in the past. And I don't want to see us not being able to have that piece of property to enhance what's going on in John West Park. So I think, do we have any further thoughts before we vote on whether or not we purchase the property as recommended now, using unrestricted funds only?
Carol, I would expect, and this council would expect nothing else from you because of your unbelievable track record with the town, to lay out all the options. That's one of the reasons why this council is so well served by having you as the town manager, because it allows you to do what's best for the town. And we're so appreciative of that. This, I don't think, is really a curveball. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that we, vote on the property. We can always return the money, but let's just make sure we don't get ourselves in a quandary with some of these bond bills, or the bond bill that we already have, and just make sure we're in good line with that.
Any other comments? No? Then I think I need a motion to purchase 8 Oakwood Avenue at the cost of $405,000 to be taken from unrestricted funds.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we purchase 8 Oakwood with 100% unrestricted funds for $405,000.
Do I hear a second?
second,
All in favor?
aye.
I hear none opposed, so passes.
Just for record, Councilman Walsh is not in attendance. Okay. If you want me to keep going after the ORPT, we're gonna need that, resolution as well. Approve it.
Well, I don't see any harm in continuing to go after it, as long as we don't have a deadline.
Well, we'll get an answer as to whether or not it's been approved. But, the resolution has to be part of what I submitted Friday, and they told me I could submit it after today.
Okay. So there is no negative aspect to approving a resolution if we don't take the money, even though it's been approved.
No, no negative aspect. The main reason, if you read the resolution, is that they want to make sure that we're going to follow all their rules. I guess they've had times where towns have not. So if we don't take it, we don't have to follow the rules.
Okay.
And if we're not going to follow the rules, we won't take it.
Any other questions about the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. It so passes.
Who was second?
Jay, me.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right, at this time, I want to ask if there's any public comments, and there's no one here in the building, but I'm asking if there's anyone on YouTube. No. Hearing no public comment, comment period is closed. I think I need to get council's guidance on whether or not we put together a committee. And I think having a committee to decide what we want to do is good. It's better to have a lot of different opinions to decide what to do with that piece of property.
I agree. The transparency, get input from homeowners.
I agree with Councilman Jay and you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important, even within the guidelines of the application, to suggest community involvement, and I think that'd be the prudent thing to do.
All right. Okay, I'll work with you to try to set that up.
Okay.
Any other business? If not, then I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Meeting-
pass it.
Meeting adjourned at 10:46.